All right, hello. Um, so I want to go over some I feel like important things um, involving your breath. So in yoga, breath work is something that is spoken about, but in everyday life, I feel like we forget to breathe a lot of the times. So I wanted to go over some techniques, why breath work is important in our yoga practice, and everyday life too. So I want to stress that just because you're doing yoga, it can't like transform or transmute into other parts of your life. It's not just like an exercise or physical exercise. So, key points, there is no like best air quotes way of breathing. Um, so, breath is breath regardless. Our breath is voluntary and involuntary, meaning that when we breathe, we are breathing automatically by nature, or if we're like excited or upset or nervous, our breath can change during exercise, etc. I want to go over how to use Ujjayi breath, um, as well as kind of like bring your awareness to breath awareness. I want to teach you Nadi Shodhana breath, Kumbhaka, which is retention breath, and then breath of fire. Okay, so basic awareness breath is just that. When we are breathing, a lot of the times, I hope that we are aware of our breath. So let's say we're standing in Tadasana or mountain pose, and we're asked to bring awareness to our breath as a form of basic awareness. Um, Ujjayi breathing, this one's interesting to explain. So when we are breathing in, we kind of hold our breath in the back of our throats and then kind of hiss out. So let's say you're trying to like um, hold a cough almost. So Ujjayi breathing, hopefully you can hear me. I'll breathe in through my nose and then exhale through my mouth. Actually, no. I'll inhale through my nose and exhale through my nose. But you'll feel it in the back of your throat. So let me get closer. Inhale. That's your Ujjayi. Um, Nadi Shodhana, I like to use this in meditation, and it's common that if you are practicing yoga or any like yoga techniques, that you're going to use this in meditation, either in the beginning of your practice or at the end of your practice. So Nadi Shodhana, I'm always like, I don't think I hold my fingers right, but some people take two fingers. I like to take one. So it's like you're doing this. I like to put my thumb on my nostril. I'll inhale through one, hold, switch, exhale. This helps you with your breath awareness as well. And also, if you are someone who is trying to do stress management, let's say you have anger issues or you have anxiety, Nadi Shodhana would be a perfect way of kind of handling that situation. So again, you'll take your hand, so your thumb and your pinky, you put the rest of your fingers down into your palm like this. You'll take your thumb, put it on your nostril, inhale, again. So inhale, and then when we breathe out from our other opposite nostril, we'll breathe in through the opposite. Hold, switch. So you should flow with this. You don't have to pause as long as I'm doing. I'm just trying to make sure you understand Nadi Shodhana. Next is our Kumbhaka breath. And I'm gonna go through the breath work and then we'll get into some movement so that you can practice. So our Kumbhaka, sorry, we're gonna inhale and basically we're just holding our breath. So you do Kumbhaka as a form of meditation, but you can also do it, let's say you're trying to think of like an everyday application of a Kumbhaka breath. At least you walk by something that stinks if you live in a city. I feel like a lot of us live in cities. So you breathe, hold it. Let's say you want to hold it for 3 seconds at first. Exhale 3 seconds. Some people like to do counting, so they'll inhale 6 seconds, exhale 6 seconds. Some folks can do it for a minute. They can inhale for a minute and then exhale for a minute. If you are familiar or not with Wim Hof breathing, which is like German style breathing, I would look into that. It's very said to be, I know we're not allowed to say healing, it does healing, but it is said to be like a healing technique of breath. But you will get a little cold. So when you YouTube or Google, there's apps out there you can try on Wim Hof breathing. Lastly, if you're someone who drinks coffee and you're trying to cut back, or you're waking up early in the morning, you don't want to be up. I'm not a morning person, so this one definitely would apply to me. Is a breath of fire. So breath of fire is like panting essentially. So you're gonna but we're really working on our lower belly. So we're inhaling and then exhaling. And then as we keep doing that, we'll breathe or intake faster. Your breath of fire is said to help with energy. Okay. So this yoga practice, I'm not using a mat, but if you want to, if you're gonna follow along, you can use a yoga mat. This practice, you won't need a strap though. And then also you can get some yoga blocks. If you don't have blocks, it's fine. You can use sturdy books, a chair, just whatever level that you're on for your practice. Grab what you need. And I will read to you the benefits of this practice. So we are working our solar plexus, our sacral, and our root chakras. This is mostly a beginning and standing pose, or mostly beginners, but we'll be doing standing and prone poses. So again, trying to like incorporate breath work into our yoga practice this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are in the world. We're gonna start with mountain or Tadasana. I'm gonna step back a little bit. Hopefully you can see me. I think lighting is a little weird in my space, but so we're gonna do our breath awareness. This is our mountain pose. If you do not know, in mountain pose, it helps to engage all of your body. So we're gonna roll our shoulders down and back so that we're not slunched over. So down and back, have our hands out like so. I don't know if you can see. We're just gonna take a couple of deep breaths in just to feel our breath, and then exhale out. Here you can practice your Ujjayi. And one more time. Okay. I like to encourage when people are starting off in their mountain pose, it's just a stretch out too with your body, how you feel, how you need to move. This is a pretty gentle yoga practice, so we're not going to be doing a ton of like hard movements because it's mainly beginner. So in yoga classes, we're often told to like breathe into our belly or fill your chest with air. I want to highlight that it's not necessarily possible, but we're definitely breathing into our diaphragm. We're filling our lungs. So we're filling ourselves up with air, but not necessarily into our belly. That makes sense. So for mountain pose, let me just move this back so you can see me a little bit better. We're going to inhale our arms up, like a nice strong stance, and step our left foot back into a high lunge. Here, we're just gonna work into our breath. You can try doing Kumbhaka Breath. So inhaling, exhaling, inhaling, and then exhaling. And just one more time. Inhale and exhale. When you're ready, we'll lower our arms down, step back to the top of our carpet or our mat. Roll your shoulders a little bit, loosen up. We didn't do like a traditional sun salutation as a warm-up. Just want to make sure that you're loose. And then we're going to take the right leg, our right foot, step it back. Our left foot should be forward in a high lunge. You can try to do a 90-degree angle. If you're not there, that's fine. You can even keep your legs straight in the front to modify this pose. So some folks, they have issues with like their hips, and your hips are a little tight. If you need to, you can have like a straight leg. Make sure that your foot is kind of at like I don't want to say 90 degree, but more or less, let's say like a 45-degree angle here. You'll reach your arms up, shoulders down and back, and you can choose the breath that we mentioned, your Ujjayi. I've never done breath of fire in a high lunge. You can try it if you need that energy, or just bring awareness to your breath in general. So I like to do a nice deep breath. As I inhale, I'll reach up high. Exhale, fold deeper into the lunge. Inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. Then we'll reach our hands forward to not hurt ourselves. Come back at the top of our mat or our carpet. Again, move around if you need to set up for your next pose. This pose will be tree pose. With tree pose, I'm just going to do a very modified, simple version, but I'll show you the 3 ways that you can do tree pose. The first way, and also if you need the wall, because this is a balancing pose or chair, just make sure wherever you're holding on to is very stable. We're going to take our hands. I like to place them on my hips. You can place them in a mudra, whatever mudra you choose, which I think I'll do a video on mudras very soon because I really enjoy them. We'll prop up our left leg, whatever leg you're using. I'm using my left, and I'll simply just put it right next to my ankle. And this is a variation of tree pose that I will be practicing. You're gonna try to like open up your hip a little bit. If you feel like you need more of a challenge, something that you can do is bring your foot below your knee. And then if you want even more of a challenge, bring your foot, let me like work my balance on myself, inside of your thigh, but make sure it's not directly on your knee. It's very dangerous for your joints. Here you can put your hand in prayer, extended prayer pose. Hold your hand like this, but for the sake of just teaching tree pose, we're gonna hold our hands. We're gonna put our index finger and our thumb together, index finger, thumb, and hold it down, how we were doing with our tree or our mountain pose. And take some breaths here, really filling your belly or your chest up and fully exhaling all that air out. We're gonna do this for 3 breaths. That was 1, 2, and then last one. 3. Your hip might be a little sore. You can roll them out if you need to. And then set up for the opposite side with our tree pose with whatever variation you took the first time. So I'm going to do right at my ankle. Make sure that my hips are open as much as I can. Take my mudra, hold it down beside me. Roll our shoulders down and back and begin our breath work. That's 1. And if you want more of a challenge, let's say this is easy, but you don't want to put your leg all the way up to above your knee, below your knee, you can close your eyes. That one is challenging, so I'm going to try. 2. And 3. For my mountain pose, we're going to engage our lower abdomen. So I feel like for folks that are super flexible, we want to engage our lower abs when we're folding over, and I can show you what that looks like. For the folks that aren't as flexible yet, you can grab your chair, your bed, some blocks, just to make this pose more accessible to you. I do want to highlight that just because you use props in your yoga practice, it doesn't mean that your yoga is like not good. Everyone uses props. And I feel like it should be encouraged more. So let me show you what I mean by engaging your lower belly. So when we breathe in, and it's kind of hard to see because I'm wearing dark clothes, but we're gonna breathe in and then suck in our lower belly. As we suck in, we are going to fold over instead of just folding over. So it makes a huge difference in like how far you can get or how deep you can get into the pose when you suck in your lower belly and then get into it. But if you're someone who's using props, you can still practice that method because I think it's a good habit to have. You're engaging your muscles instead of relying on your flexibility, which is very important. We're going to take our blocks, and you can put them on whatever level you're at. So there's 3 flat ways. You can do, I want to say like hamburger style, hot dog style. I'm going to do hot dog style. I'm going to place them about shoulder width apart, hips distance, and then you're going to get into your forward fold by inhaling your lower belly, and then you can exhale. As you inhale, you'll exhale deeper into this pose. So you can practice your Ujjayi, if you remember, your throat breathing, or you can try doing counted breaths here, or just breath awareness in general. Here I was going to encourage you to be aware of your breath in this pose and kind of feel out anything that might feel a little tight. You can move around. I encourage you to sway if you need to. Here we're going to do a half forward, or lift halfway up. Very simple. If you're using blocks and you're already pretty lifted, you can come up onto your fingertips like so to have a flat back. We're going to take a couple of breaths here. And then we're going to get into, we're going to step back into a plank. So this is where we get on the floor, and then from here we'll stay on the ground for the rest of our practice, for the most part. So I'm going to step back, try to be mindful of your breath here, and plank Kumbhaka breath is probably best to use, or actually there's no best way of breathing, I just said that, but for me, I usually use Kumbhaka breath. I hold my plank. Make sure your hands are shoulders width apart, a little bit beneath your shoulders. If this is too hard, you can come down onto your knees. It doesn't have to be like a struggle. Like, you don't have to struggle to get the benefits of a pose. So, and just make sure your hips come a little bit forward. And this could be your modified plank. Just make sure that you're breathing and engaging your core. And what I mean by that is like holding your core, making sure that your belly is hard. The abs is steel. So here we're going to take a break from our plank if you're not already out of it. We're going to get into a tabletop position. And tabletop, I find it helpful, especially if this is like a morning stretching routine or a nighttime routine, to kind of sway again side to side and forward and back, just to like feel out the kinks if you have any in your shoulders. Really get your joints moving, loosen up all that tension you might be holding. We're going to prepare for our cat-cow. So inhale, cat. So we're going to arch our back up. Exhale, cow, pushing our butt out. Inhale again. So our cat. Exhale, cow. So you move with your breath, kind of like how we do the Nadi Shodhana breathing. So inhale, and then exhale. And you can be mindful, like, when you're breathing in, where you feel that breath. Inhale, and exhale. So for me, that breath is more or less in my lower abdomen, but I do feel some breath work in my chest. But everyone is different too. From cat-cow, we're gonna go back into plank pose. So I think it'll be easier if I show you this way. I don't really have a lot of space, but plank pose here, we're gonna lower down. This is called chaturanga, or 4-limb pose. Halfway. And we're gonna push ourselves up into cobra pose, okay? I'll show you from the side, just in case you didn't get that angle. So modified version, our plank pose, we're gonna lower down halfway and then push ourselves up into cobra pose or up dog, depending on what you want to do. I believe this is the up dog, so cobra would be more like this. And just breathe. When you're ready to come out of this pose, I think it's helpful to slowly come out, because it is working more of your lower back. You want to be careful of that. So we're now back into our tabletop. We're going to push down and back into our downward facing dog. So I'll show you from this angle what my down dog looks like currently. And everyone's downward facing dog is a little bit different, so don't feel discouraged if you struggle with this pose. I think it is it can be a challenging pose. So this is our down dog. A modified version of down dog that we can do is puppy pose. So instead of coming up on all our hands, we'll just stand on our shoulders and then push ourselves up, which I really don't have the space to show you from that side, but hopefully you can see from here. If this is still too aggressive, we can come into a child's pose, push ourselves down and back, just stretch out our shoulders a little bit. and come back into tabletop position. From downward facing dog, we're going to do another plank pose. You can choose if you want it to be modified or if you want it to be, I guess like original, modified and original. I'm not sure how to put it, but our plank pose, again, coming back into our breath. So let's do a couple of breaths here. Try to strengthen ourselves, strengthen our endurance or our tapas. So inhale. That's one. Inhale. Exhale. Two. Inhale. Exhale. Three. Lower back down onto our knees, back into tabletop pose. Take a bit of a break here. Okay. Stretch it out. We're gonna come onto our bottoms. We're almost finished with our sequence. Making sure that you didn't lose your breath, because I think I lost mine, which is normal. So I think the benefits of yoga would be included mindfulness. So while you're practicing, you want to be aware of like how your body is positioned, but also your breath work as well. I feel like breath work is way more important than like the physical part of yoga. Breath work is yoga. And then the asana would be like the added in, like the dessert, the snack. Breath work is the main course. We're gonna get into our bound angle pose. So if you're someone who has knee issues, one way that you can modify this pose and take blocks, you can take a blanket or a towel, just to raise, or hip issues too, to raise your legs to you, give you more support, like this. Or if you still want to practice and try, you can like gradually get into the pose. So like, let's say you are able to put your feet together, you can hold it right here, you have a big diamond, try to like reach forward a little bit, come out of it. If you're someone who's very flexible, then you can try your best to have your knees touch the floor. That will be engaging your hip flexors as well. So we're gonna inhale and make sure our shoulders are down and back, and exhale. Here we're gonna try our counted breath. So we're gonna inhale for 4, or let's say inhale for 3. So inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. It's hard to count while also doing, so I'll count it for you. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. One more time. Inhale, 1, 2, 3. Hold, 1, 2, 3. Exhale, 1, 2, 3. So we're like slowing down our system. If you're someone who is always on the go, counted breaths or very mindfully counted breaths, slowly counted breaths too, will help with slowing you down. So we're getting into like the last parts of our sequence. We're gonna come onto our backs, and maybe I can like switch my angle, but we're gonna do a bridge pose, 3 variation. The first variation is just like the traditional way. We're going to come onto our backs, tuck our shoulders underneath us, make sure that we're flat. Inhale, push ourselves up as high as we can, and then we'll begin our breath work. We're going to try to engage our thighs, so if you can, keep your knees close to you. Um, engage your glutes as well. And then, of course, start breathing. And when you're ready, you can slowly lower down. We don't want to plop down because we can hurt ourselves. Take a few breaths. You can put your one hand on your stomach and one on your chest, just to be aware of like where your breath is flowing. Some people, I feel like most people are shallow breathers, and this exercise or this practice of holding ourselves, touching ourselves while breathing can like give us more awareness as to how deep we should be breathing or how deep we need to breathe, or just awareness in general. Now we're going to prepare for the next variation. In this variation, we're going to grab our ankles, or try to. Let me see if I can show you from this side. I don't think you're going to get like the full view, but I'm trying. Maybe I will. Let me lower down. Oh, which pose? Which pose with the blocks? So there's the forward folds you can do, or the bound angle pose. So you're putting the blocks underneath your knees, it's bound angle pose. If you're putting the blocks underneath your hands, more than likely it will be your forward fold. Just depends on like where you came in. Okay, so now that's a better angle and better lighting. We're gonna take our position here, put our hands behind or near our ankles or heels, so you can try to scoot your heels in as close as possible. And then we're going to lift up. This one variation of bridge pose. Another one, if you can get your heels to touch your bottom and you can touch your ankles with your hands, so you can push yourself up like this, folding your shoulders underneath you to give you more of a stability, and you can begin your breath work. And then some people like to come up on their toes too. Was another variation, and have their hands out, or they like to pump. I'm trying to give you some options here. And then the last variation I want to show you is like your hands behind your back. So you'll take your hands, push yourself up, clasp your hands beneath you, and then begin your breath work. So you can be mindful of like where you feel your breath in this pose. But I feel like breath here also helps with being mindful of how strong your pose is, because it's hard to do like a strong breath or a deep breath if you're not like fully engaged, at least for me. Okay, and then the last thing, we're gonna take our break. Our break meaning we're gonna get into corpse pose. In corpse pose, I want to encourage you again to be mindful of your breath. So let me show you what corpse pose looks like if you're someone who doesn't know what that looks like. You're basically just lying down in a comfortable position. You can have your hands out. You can have your hands on your chest or your belly. You can have your hands in a mudra like this, or like folded over you. It all depends on what you want to do. So you take that position into your savasana, or sorry, your corpse pose. And then I want to go back over the key points. Hopefully I hit them. Hopefully. So number one is there is no best way of breathing. Really in yoga. We went over how to use Ujjayi, but I'm not sure if it stuck, but we can keep going over it. And then the most important thing is that breath is voluntary and involuntary. Um, so in your corpse pose, I want to challenge you to take or be aware of your breath now after we have gone over the different types of breathing, but also have moved our bodies a little bit in this practice. If you're trying to relax, I wouldn't do a breath of fire unless you're like trying to go out and get some chores and errands done before Monday. I want to thank you for tuning in to this practice. I tried to explain. I hope I did a good job with explaining, given that I don't have like a ton of space, but feel free to continue to practice the movements. So again, we went over, if you're joining in late or if you just want to like do it on your own without me guiding you, we went into mountain pose. We did high lunge, left and right. We did a tree pose, very like modified tree pose. But again, you can take whatever version you want. We did a forward fold. We halfway lifted. We stepped back into plank pose. We did tabletop, then cat-cow, plank pose, chaturanga, cobra pose, downward facing dog, plank pose, tabletop, bound angle pose, bridge pose, bridge ankle, bridge behind the back, and now our corpse pose. So I hope that this was enjoyable and that you learned something. And I'll close out by saying namaste. And enjoy the rest of your day. I hope it's productive and you stay safe.